The jury in Manhattan is considering the charges against former President Trump in the hush money trial. Trump is charged with 34 felony counts of falsifying business records. The prosecution has alleged that Trump illegally covered up a hush money payment Michael Cohen made to porn star Stormy Daniels in the weeks before the 2016 election to make sure she stayed silent about an alleged affair that occurred a decade prior. Now, this case is complicated, so let's break down exactly what the jury must determine in order to find Trump guilty. First, the jury has to decide whether or not Trump caused false business record entries related to the hush money payment. Each of the 34 counts Trump faces corresponds to a specific document generated when Trump later allegedly repaid Michael Cohen for the hush money to Stormy Daniels. These documents fall into three categories: 11 invoices Cohen filed to Trump, 11 checks sent back to Cohen, and 12 ledger entries reflecting those transactions. The prosecution says Trump falsely recorded the reimbursements as a legal expense in order to hide the fact it was really to reimburse Cohen for paying off Daniels. Trump's legal team says the records are accurate because the payments really were to pay Cohen for legitimate legal services he provided for Trump. In order to find him guilty, the jury will have to decide the records are indeed false and that Trump was responsible for them, meaning Michael Cohen didn't just go rogue and do this all on his own accord. Next, the jury has to decide if Trump had an intent to defraud. So even if the jury decided the records were false and Trump was responsible for them, the jury also has to find that Trump had the intention to defraud. Otherwise, they can't find him guilty. According to the jury instructions given by Judge Merchan, a person acts with intent to defraud when his or her conscious objective or purpose is to do so. In order to prove an intent to defraud, the people need not prove that the defendant acted with the intent to defraud any particular person or entity. A general intent to defraud any person or entity suffices. The prosecution says Trump defrauded the voting public and that the hush money payment fit into a larger scheme to kill negative stories about Trump to increase his chances of winning the 2016 election. Trump's attorneys argue that any effort by Trump's allies to kill bad press are simply standard practices when running a presidential campaign. Did Trump have an intent to commit, conceal, or aid another crime? Falsifying business records is usually only a misdemeanor in New York. Prosecutors bumped the charges up to a felony by claiming Trump falsified these business records for the purpose of violating New York election law. In the state of New York, it is a crime to promote or prevent the election of any person to a public office by unlawful means. If the jury doesn't find that Trump falsified these 34 business records specifically with another crime in mind, they can't convict him of a felony. Judge Merchan told the jury, "Under our law, although the people must prove an intent to commit another crime or to aid or conceal the commission thereof, they need not prove that the other crime was in fact committed, aided, or concealed." So the jury doesn't have to believe Trump ultimately succeeded in committing or covering up other crimes, but they do have to believe that was his intention. Did Trump conspire to promote his candidacy by unlawful means? The prosecutors presented three different theories of unlawful means to the jury. First, they noted violations of the Federal Election Campaign Act, or FICA, which puts limits on donations to political candidates. Michael Cohen actually pled guilty to violating this law when he made the $130,000 hush money payment to Stormy Daniels, and he served jail time and lost his law license for it. Second, the prosecution makes the case that additional business records were falsified. They specifically point to paperwork generated when Michael Cohen set up bank accounts under false pretenses and when he wired the hush money payments to Stormy Daniels' attorney. Third, the prosecution claims violation of tax laws, making the case that the reimbursement payments to Michael Cohen were falsely categorized as income. Now, the interesting part of all this is that the jury doesn't have to unanimously agree that a single one of these theories is true. Instead, they just have to all agree that one of the theories works, meaning some jurors could believe the unlawful means were the federal election violations, some could believe the bank accounts and wire payment theory, and some could believe the tax law theory. It doesn't really matter as long as every single juror believes at least one of these theories is accurate. Judge Merchan said to the jury, "Although you must conclude unanimously that the defendant conspired to promote or prevent the election of any person to a public office by unlawful means, you need not be unanimous as to what those unlawful means were." So what do you think of all this? Do you think that the prosecution proved their case and Trump will be found guilty? Let me know in the comments down below.